Taking your time to kind of settle into your chosen position, knowing that you can shift position at any time. I do think sometimes, in some ways, we're taught that it's more honorable to hold still, and I don't believe that to be true. So, giving yourself that freedom to adapt the movement, or pardon me, adapt your position in any way at any time. And now noticing something about where you've landed and what position you're in. What parts of you are making contact with whatever is supporting your weight? Being curious about whether you could try even less hard. So, kind of softening your focus, softening your inner ear so that you remember it's fine if you miss some words. Maybe softening that need to figure out or try to make sense of, softening that a little bit. Exhaling to let your arms and your legs be a little bit heavier, letting your hips release down any amount. And with your next exhale, letting your shoulders sink, letting your head release, letting your jaw release, letting the backs of your eyes release. And so I'll be reading a passage from this book called I Sit Listening to the Wind by Judith Duerk. I'll be reading a little story that she told at one time about an experience she had. I'll be reading it kind of slowly, kind of softly. So again, you might use this as a sound meditation where you just allow the rhythm and tone of my voice to kind of carry you. Or you might find sometimes that some of the imagery captures your attention, and you might allow that imagery or those words to reverberate or echo somehow in your mind, allowing them to hang around with you as you rest. I sit listening to the wind. The woods are cool and quiet. The wind blows and brings a memory from many years ago. The storms of autumn had felled large trees and branches in the woods nearby. For several days, men had worked to clear away the timber. The firewood had been cut in lengths and neatly stacked to dry. What was left was in a heap of brush and twigs. It was an eyesore in the way and in the very place I had wanted to write for the next few days. There was no one else to clean it up, so I started with a vengeance, intending to make short shrift of it and get on with my real work. For a few hours, I labored furiously, pulling at the pile, grabbing at the ends of the largest branches, trying to disentangle the heap by sheer brute force. I learned later that a young woodsman had returned willing to work, but had fled in fright before the ferocity of my face and efforts. By late morning, it was clear that nothing effective was happening. My petulant tearings and rippings at the pile finally began to slow down. Much of my irritation had worn itself off. The woods had worked its way. I stopped to sit on a nearby rock and knew that I must eat. When I went back to work, it was with a different energy, no longer impatiently pulling at the protruding limbs or trying to overturn the heap. With clippers, I began to trim whatever offered itself from the stack. In my agitation of the morning, I had not seen that it could be approached in this way. By late in the afternoon, I knew there was no way that the task would be finished that day. I began to work more slowly, to sink into my experience with the brush. To the right went branches neatly stacked, ready for drying or burning. To the left, I placed little bundles of twigs to be used later as kindling. As the shadows lengthened, a quieter rhythm emerged. The task seemed more worthy of itself, my real work less pressing. I stopped before I grew too tired, and much to my surprise, began to write, as I had first intended, right there beside the brush. On the morning of the second day, I awakened early with a sense of eagerness, not to finish the job of clearing, but to see what the day might bring if I offered myself to the task. At intervals, I rested with no clear plan for what must be completed that day. It was almost no surprise to find myself writing in the woods as I rested. The day passed. Near the middle of the third day, I became aware of something wondrous happening. My whole experience was shifting. The molecules of time itself seemed to open up before me, spreading themselves apart so that there was space and breadth amongst them, room to breathe within each moment. I laid down the clippers and sat on the rock to sense the moment more fully, as I had not allowed myself to do the day before. I saw the wind in the tallest trees slowly stir the leaves. The colors shifted from darkest greens to black to nearly yellow. A hush was in the woods, as well as deep within me. I watched there while the sun set, then walked silently to the house. I washed my hair and did the few things necessary to prepare for the coming week. The next morning, as the fourth day dawned, the whole house lay in quietness. The preparations of the evening before, undertaken out of silence, had emerged from a sense of ordering far deeper than conscious planning. What had not been done never would be missed. When I returned to the woods to work, I carried a broom with the clippers. By noontime, all of the remaining twigs had been put into the little bundles and tied with yarn from the house. I swept the ground where the brush had been, smoothing out the last bits of bark. The earth lay flat and clean again, the grass a pale yellow. Many times through the years, I have remembered that fourth day. There was a sense of being deep within the doing. Rather than a driven way of pressing to complete the task, it was as if I had slipped through a scrim into a timeless, mysterious realm, silent, shimmering with life. Noticing the slight, very slight coolness of the air as you breathe in. Perhaps gently deepening your inhales and beginning to move in subtle ways. If you've been lying down, you might roll to your side and pause. Eventually coming to sit so that we can close our practice. Offering out a good breath or a silent thank you to all of those who are practicing with us. And offering that same kindness, that same thank you to ourselves. Possibly bowing your head to the wisdom that is already inside you. And so it is. Thank you so much for practicing with me today.